Okay, so here is the second part. And there's a fly running around in here, and it's driving me crazy. I've tried to kill it before I started, but I couldn't. Um, I couldn't. I couldn't catch it. So if I stop and kill a fly, well, then you know why. Um, okay, and another thing before I get started, I realize that I'm going to tell the story out of order. I absolutely 100% get the fact that I'm going to mess this story up and not tell it exactly in order because when we get farther into it, I'll tell you why. But and at the end, I could probably maybe come back and tell you other parts of it that and add to it. But okay, so here we're gonna go. My mom. We're gonna go back to where my mom took control of the building, and so there she was. She's in there, and now you got to know my mom. My mom was a spitfire, tiny, tiny lady. She probably, soaking wet, weighed 110 pounds. And she was probably 5 foot, 5 foot one, somewhere in there. And absolutely the boss and in control of every situation. Let's just put it like that because that's how she was. And I'm a lot like her in a lot of senses. I do tend to control situations and be the person, the go-to person for situations and, move things along. But okay, so she's took control. I'm back in the room. I mean, literally within just a minute or two. And with just very, very shortly later, they find, they're doing tests. They're got doctors in there. They're trying to figure out, my family, I guess, told them that I had bronchitis and was just taking antibiotics. So, they thought, okay, it was probably that, whatever. And trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And so ultimately, they got me calmed down, got me on, some IV drips and feeling better, drug medication. I was feeling better. Well, so everybody thinks, okay, she's going to be fine. Now, my mom and dad, I think, were still there, but my husband went ahead and took my son home. He was 14 and took my son home, and he thought that I was going to be fine, I guess. A lot of this, and I'll share a lot of it more later, why, but a lot of this I'm taking from information that they have given me. But so for whatever reason, he went home. Now, whether it was to take my son home and come back or to stay there, I have no idea. I'm going to assume that because that's the kind of person he is. But I'm thinking that he took him home. Well, apparently, I called him and said, okay, they found out what the problem is. My left lung is collapsed, and they are going to put me in a medically induced coma. And you don't have time to get back here, so I wanted to tell you that I love you. And so that freaked him out. And if I don't really remember it, but he's told me that's what I said. And so by the time he got there, it was done. I was intubated in a coma. And so they put me in ICU, and this was on December 28th. And now this is a guesstimate right here, because of course I don't know it for fact, the date, but I do believe, because of everything that they have shared with me, that I went downhill, 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 like bad. Like I was done. And on January 7th, 2001, they called all my family in and said I had about 3 hours left. And this happened to be my son's 15th birthday. and that they would be very shocked if I lasted 3 hours. And the left lung had turned into both lungs. They had put me in the medically induced coma, and they couldn't get me out. I would not come out, no matter how hard they tried. I see that fly rolling by on the left there. They couldn't get me out. My kidneys and my liver and my bodily functions had decided that it was time to stop and quit working. And both lungs had, the left lung had been collapsed for so long that it had already, done its thing. And I'm not a medical person, so I don't quite understand it, but I guess they harden when they collapse, and I had been living on one lung in a medically induced comatose state from December 27th through, at this point, January 7th. And so whatever that is, 10 days at that point. 11, I guess, because there's 31 days in December. And so anyways, I heard my mother screaming, "No, not my Gina, not my baby." I heard it. You can't tell me I didn't hear it. No one in their right mind would ever even attempt to tell me they didn't hear it, because they would hear it from me for the rest of their lives. Because I heard those words. Now the problem with that is that I was in intensive care in ICU with the door closed, hooked up to tons of machines. And my mother, who was being told this, was outside that door, behind the nurse's station, down a hallway, through a door, down another hallway, through a set of double doors, through a waiting room area, in another room, through another set of doors, in the family gathering area where they take you when people are dying. There is no possible way. I've been there. I've been back several times. There is no possible way that I could have heard those words. Earthly, humanly earthly. There's no way. I don't care if she screamed to the top of her lungs through all of those machines and all of those places. I don't believe the amount of space between us would allow me to hear those words. However, confirmation has told me by many people, those are exactly, word for word, the words that my mother used when the doctor told her I had about 3 hours left to live, all the many rooms away. I did hear it. I absolutely did hear those words. But to say you sit in the room in the comatose state and you know all of your surroundings and you know what's happening, no, that's not, for me, that was not the way it worked. I did not hear people come in and talking to me, and that didn't happen for me. So that was on January 7th, my son's 15th birthday, and apparently, now you need to know, the group of people around me, surrounding me, my family, my friends, is large. It's large. Well, we had overtaken this hospital, and there was a prayer meeting going on down there in them waiting rooms. And there I lay in the room with 2 collapsed lungs, my functions stopping. They're not working anymore. Everything that they've tried that has been exhausted, and I'm on my way out. And about from what I understand, and this has been a long time, so the timing I might be off some minutes, but I want to say 20 minutes. I think it was 20, 30 minutes. Uh, One of the head doctors came out and was talking to my family, and they said, he said, I just want to let you know that I'm a man of faith and I'm a Christian, and when I walked in the room, by all accounts, Gina was gone. And within minutes, we saw improvement. So whatever you're doing, you need to be doing it, because we can't save her. And so that just gave my family freedom to go whole hog for it. I mean, they just went for it. And apparently, my sister, I mean, I know there were several, I know that. But my youngest sister, my baby sister, she was not having none of it, apparently. And she had decided, no, sorry, you're not taking her. And thank God she did. It's all I can really say at this point is thank God she took a stand and had the Lord intervene on my behalf. And they said he came back a little bit later and said, okay, the crisis is over, we've got her stabilized. Prayer really, really does work. And because we couldn't save her, she was done. Now, of course, my husband could tell you the story a lot better, my sisters, because I was asleep. I don't, this is all hearsay from them. But I had averted that crisis, and the Lord intervened and spared me. Well, the next thing that I recall was some days later, because I have no idea what days. I'm in a coma, so I don't really know when it happened. But at some point in time between then and waking up, I had a situation where I woke up and was not visually, but I was hearing my own funeral. So whether I was really awake or semi not in a coma and it was a dreamlike state, I'm not really, who knows? I have no idea. But I heard and seen so many things. I heard a funeral procession, and I could, at some point in that dreamlike state, see what was, one of those old black carriages that they carried coffins or dead people in. I don't even know if there was coffins in it. We were on some type of a bed type situation, and there's glass all the way around it, and then there's the roof and the bottom, and the edges are what's holding it on, but the whole area is glass. Well, I was in that, and I'm saying, I'm not dead, people. I am not dead. You need to just back off because I'm not dead. Well, I saw several things, but one thing I saw, which is what made me think that this was a dreamlike state, or maybe this was at a different time and I'm confused, they weren't together, was this really tall, steep building. but it was slanted, like, you know, that building in San Francisco that they show all the time when they say San Francisco, and it's really slanted. The building itself is just slanted. It was a building like that, and it was like I was sliding down the building on the outside. I don't understand that. However, as that was happening, I saw the most beautiful, clearest water trickling, running river I have ever seen in my entire life. It was so beautiful and so inviting and glorious. I mean, it was like vast, huge, this huge river. Well, I'm kind of, coming down this side of this building, and I see just a city in the background in this river that you can see is deep. However, you can see every single rock and formation on the bottom of the riverbed. Beautiful. It was unbelievable, beautiful. So I see that's happening for a while, and then I could hear my dad crying. He was just crying. Well, that kind of brought me back to reality, and I opened my eyes, like really opened my eyes. And now, if you're not a believer, I'm sorry in advance that you're gonna hear this, but I'm gonna tell my story. I'm not really sorry. I'm not sorry, because I want to tell my story. I mean, I feel bad if you're gonna be like, I'm gonna feel bad about that for you, not for me. So I woke. I'm awake, but apparently I'm so weak that I have no idea. So within minutes of hearing my dad crying, and it really upset me that my dad was crying. I opened my eyes, and I don't know what else to say except I saw the enemy after me. I mean, it was the Undertaker coming down to get me, to take me not to the right place. And within one instant, I knew I needed my mother. And you're not going to think, oh, she needed her mommy. No. I needed my mother because I needed to ask her to forgive me. I needed her to forgive me for being such a... We had a very rocky relationship. There were times that we didn't speak, that we were hateful to each other, that we were... Now in hindsight, I can see it's because we were exactly alike, but we had troubled years. And you can say all you want, but I believe that when the Bible says no sin shall enter the gates of heaven, that means no sins. It doesn't matter that you've been in church and you've been singing on the platform since you were 12 years old and you've been serving the Lord. No, I had hatred in my heart for my mother. And she had hatred in her heart for me. We loved each other, but it was very much a love-hate relationship. Well, I seen him, and he was just walking slowly back and forth at the foot of my bed, staring at me. Like, I will get you. You watch. I will get you. And right then I'm like, oh, dear Lord Jesus, I'm sorry about everything. I'm sorry. Please don't let me go here. I don't want to go here. I don't want to be there. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. And I knew I had been forgiven immediately. I knew that. Because that's how good he is. But the enemy was really trying to take me out. And kind of like this fly is right now. Just say it. And so, I prayed immediately. I got it under the blood. I get that I was wrong. It's your mother. I don't care what kind of differences you have. They're not always going to be there. And I am very well aware of that. But you don't take for granted your parents or your family or your loved ones or I'm sorry, my hair is driving me crazy. You don't take them for granted and you don't treat them poorly. I don't care what they treat you like. You be the bigger person. And you move on. And you be better than I was. Because it just about took me down. And so, the next thing I remember was, I prayed and I was like, oh, dear Lord Jesus, please be with me. Please be with me. Please be with me. Because I'm scared to death, right? I just heard my own funeral. I'm seeing the undertaker coming to get me. And you can believe what you want. That was the truth. I know it. I know it in my heart. That time, I knew what I needed to do, right? I knew, you're not going to change my mind. I knew I needed to pray, and I needed to pray right then because I knew in that moment, even though I was in that coffin just a few minutes earlier saying, hey, I'm not dead, people back off, what are you doing, whatever. As soon as I realized in this dreamlike state that wasn't for me, I was like, I am out of here, And so, without doubt, I know that the Lord gave me a chance to get my issues under the blood. And I guess I went out at that point, whatever. I don't really remember anything else from that point on. But I knew that I had prayed and I felt that my soul was secure. But I didn't know anything else because the next thing I remember is I woke up again and my sister and my pastor's wife was standing at the foot of my bed. Same sister, older sister. Not the younger one that was praying in the waiting room. They were standing at the foot of the bed, and so I was awake. So apparently I had been waking up, and there was reasons why they were standing there, I guess. Now my husband will tell you a completely different story, because there was a time during this whole process that the doctors made him make a very, very strong choice, and he stopped all visitation, including my parents. Because what would happen was, see, this is one of those things that I'm telling you out of order, I'm sorry, but what would happen would be if anyone would come in and touch me, my blood pressure would drop so low that they thought I was going to die right then. And, anytime anyone would touch me, that would happen. Well, every single time my mother walked in the room, she couldn't help it. She was touching me, rubbing me, touching me. Well, you got to know that would not fly with me. Now, mind you, this is happening before the undertaker come and I've prayed and whatever. So apparently there is some sort of mental awareness, because I knew when people were touching me, apparently, But he had to make the decision to cause no one to visit, including my parents. They couldn't come in. So I'm going to stop right here and say That's the last. That's where I am. I've woken up, and I'm right at the foot of my bed is my sister and my pastor's wife. And I can tell you now that was February 20, February 22nd. So from December 27th to February 22nd, I was out. So I'm going to tell you the next part of the story in the next video. And this one's already 25 minutes long, way longer than I want it to be. I'm sorry, guys. But there we have it.